there, and welcome to the Bitcoin Takeover podcast. This is season 15, episode 45, and I'm live with the two contributors to the open source Wasabi Wallet, which now does not run anymore a centralized coordinator. Their names are Lucas Ontivero and also Turbolay. And they are here to talk about the present and the future of this open source project, which once again is no longer in the business of directly offering CoinJoins. So it's really good to have you guys. I've been a big fan of your work, and I'm excited to talk about what's next for this open source project.
Hi, Vlad. Thanks for having us. Really happy to have with you again.
Yes, Lucas, this is your second time on the show, but the first time doing video. Turbolay, this is your first time, I guess. You go first in introducing yourself and saying what you're doing for Wasabi and who's paying you for this.
Hello, Vlad. Thank you for having me. I've been a backend dev for Wasabi for 2 years now, and I've been founded by ZK Snacks to do so. It has been an interesting journey, interesting turn of events so far, right? And I- oh. I've been working with ZK Snacks almost 2 years, and now with Lucas, we are continuing on the open source part of Wasabi, maintaining CoinJoin and the client.
Okay, so what is there left to do with Wasabi? You know, it feels like this open source project that was almost complete. And what's there left to do? You say maintain, but what does that entail?
A lot. First, we changed drastically paradigm. Now I think 1 month since ZK Snacks decided to shut down. Because Wasabi was really well-funded, a really well-funded project, and as such was not a normal standard, let's say, open source project, fighting for funding everywhere, trying to find contributors, people willing to open source contributor. I mean, mostly unpaid, right? Or maintainers. We add all this stuff, right? So when it's easy, you don't realize what you have. But then now that ZK Snacks is shutting down, we have a code base that is made to be maintained by a whole bunch of people, right? A huge amount of contributors that spend a lot of time on the source code on the project, and we don't have that anymore. As a result, we have to reduce everything, downsize, make it maintainable by a handful of people or more sporadic contributions, let's say. People coming, wanting to change something, and doing a quick change. Same for fixing critical errors or this kind of stuff. Code base is not made for this, so our first and most important task, I guess, is to make it easier to maintain, to keep the code base in good condition, in production condition, let's say.
When you say downsize, what is that about? Are you going to be removing some features or will you make it smaller, or how is that going to be approached?
Both. Some non-critical features we want to remove, and in fact we already began to do so. An example is we had a feature for password recovery, which was a feature if you forgot your password, which in fact in Wasabi we use the password as a passphrase. If you forgot it, we had a built-in tool to try to brute force your password using hints. And we removed this. And the narrative is that our tool is not the best to do so. There are open source tools dedicated to do this kind of stuff. And so why would we need to invest resources that we don't have to maintain this kind of code where there are alternatives elsewhere, maybe even better? So all these kind of features, let's say, that are not critical for the wallet, we want to remove. Also, another aspect is that Every Wasabi's client was using the same backend, still currently, but it was mostly true in the past. We were relying a lot on ZK Snack's backend for a lot of things, and a bit too much. And as a result, the backend used by ZK Snacks needed to be quite huge, so a lot of CPU, memory, a lot of costs, therefore. But this we cannot have anymore. So we want to put more load on the client side, let's say, and less load on the backend, make it easier to run the backend. Coordinator as well, which are now two separate things. Lucas, we talk about it. But yes, so reduce the code base so it's easier to maintain, but also makes the server more lightweight, easier to run.
Okay, Lucas, what about you? What's your take on this open source project? Why are you still working on this? And I do recall at one point I read a post on both Nostr. By the way, we're live on Nostr right now, as well as Twitter and YouTube. I read a post by you in which you mentioned that you're thinking about the future of Wasabi and you want to add some new privacy features, and basically you're paving the road towards Wasabi 3.0. And I think that's really impressive. I really love to hear how you envision that.
Okay, yes. First of all, now we are working on war mode, right? This is we are only 2. We are not 20 as before. I don't know how many. So we have to have very clear priorities, and the priority for us is, first of all, I wouldn't want to see Wasabi to suffer the same that Samurai suffer, right? So I don't want one day people open their Wasabi wallet and find that, oh, the coordinator, the backend is not online, and then the wallet is useless, right? I want Wasabi to survive, to all kind of things. So first of all, we have to, of course, to make it maintainable. That's what Turbo explained. Also separate the APIs to have coordinators and backend API and processes. I mean, you can install them and run them independently. So there can be, in the same way that there are multiple coordinators right now, there can be also multiple backend providers, right? So you can connect to random nodes, let's say, or backends, right? Not only one official backend, right? That's one. Also, we have to continue working on making Wasabi CoinJoins like more resilient, right? With multiple coordinators. Right now there are like 10, but only 4, I think, have really liquidity. We have to improve that, right? We have to make it cheaper to run coordinators and cheaper to run backends. And of course, we need to also add more privacy features. But I think that is a secondary goal, that it can be for Wasabi 3. From payments in CoinJoin, that's something that we already have, but it's not available in the UI, right? So I can pay someone in a CoinJoin. So basically, I cannot, I mean, the payee cannot track the payer back, right? And silent payments, um, and basically all to take advantage of all the possibilities that Wabi-Sabi opens, right? That I think we are underusing them, right? That's basically. But again, the priority is to make Wasabi, sorry for saying this, but unfuckable, basically, right?
I think that sounds really nice. Making Wasabi unfuckable. That's sounds like an actual goal that you should accomplish in the coming years. But I think you mentioned something interesting about Samurai Wallet. And there was that situation where the developers got arrested. And something interesting to me is the fact that Samurai did not get developers to take over the project and continue it. And everyone's waiting for the same guys to come out of jail and continue working on the project, and they started this advocacy campaign to freedom, as opposed to Wasabi, where the situation is very different. You shut
Yes.
down the coordinator, and then the community took over. You have a bunch of different coordinators. You have forks. You have Ginger, which, if I'm not mistaken, is a one-to-one fork of Wasabi, but they decided to continue with the same business model and possibly negotiate with regulators or whatever. So it's interesting that Wasabi has taken a life of its own and is not entirely dead. Whereas in the case of Samurai, everyone is waiting for the same guys to come back. And why do you think this is happening?
Okay, first of all, yes, it's absolutely true. First of all, for example, we have now like these 10 coordinators. It's not because CK Snacks paid for that. It's just that part of our community, in this case, Cooks working on BTC Pay server, he implemented, for example, these coordinators, right? Using our code that basically is a BTC Pay server plugin. So basically, that's part of the community. Cooks made a huge work there, and there are others creating robots and pages to track the liquidity and track the different coordinators and developing on top of Wasabi or forking Wasabi. And this is something that I mentioned last time we talked. I mean, in your podcast that I imagine many people running. Providing this service using our code, right? In the case of Samurai, honestly I don't know, because basically it's the Java project, it's open source. Even I have cloned the repository, right? So I mean, everybody have the repository. The Java developers, there are a lot of Java developers, but I don't know what happened. Maybe the mistake was to, I'm trying to understand, but the mistake was that basically I don't know, they hard coded the URL for the backend, so making the clients dependent on a central server, and that's something that Wasabi didn't do. So for us, it was almost immediately, right? CK Snacks announced that okay, we are going to stop providing this service, and in 2 weeks there were, I don't know, I think 8 new coordinators running. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So yes, I think we have a community that I hope it continues growing and continues developing on top of Wasabi.
For me, it's really impressive that this open source project was not abandoned and the community moved so fast. And I think you guys did this very gracefully. There was no need for some sort of political advocacy campaign. There was no need for, I guess, incentives and payments from ZK Snacks in order for the project to continue. It happened very organically. You had some former employees of ZK Snacks who decided to continue the project under a different name. So they forked the code base, they created Ginger, and they decided to not change too much. They're gonna be the same service, but with this asterisk that if there's any requirement for them to become more compliant, they will, because they want to stay in business. At least that's the way in which I understand the existence of Ginger. But then you have your project, which is a continuation of the open source code base, and you're ambitious in the sense that you want to decentralize it and make it in a way that it's, I guess, much more accessible than Join Market, because Join Market maybe has the infrastructure, which I don't think is as great as Wabi Sabi, but I don't think they have as much liquidity and they don't have the nice interface. Wasabi has the very nice user interface, is a brand, a brand that's very well established, and you're able to continue this, and I think it's admirable.
Turo,
Mhm.
what do you
It, I want to bounce back on Samurai, what you said, Lucas, because one of main difference we have right now is that the client is still working, right? on Wasabi, and it's really a direction we have to focus on to make the client unforkable, as Lucas mentioned earlier, because why Samurai didn't have a community takeover? Because the liquidity using Whirlpool will be forced to download a new client, right? And to trust new binaries, a new client, and it's something not so easy to do. For a new entity to gather trust and thus liquidity for most of its users, because even Whirlpool require liquidity. If users of Wasabi will need to download a new client, probably things will be really different right now. Now what changes is that the liquidity still uses Wasabi, right? It functions as a wallet, and it's even a really good private wallet if we exclude CoinJoins. Even excluding CoinJoins, you have block filters, right? Or all that fancy privacy features that we were able to build thanks to ZK Snacks funding and to the revenue model that we had. That makes Wasabi one of best Bitcoin wallets, especially privacy related. And you can still use this client. So it's not so hard for a new entity to gather community liquidity. Sorry. Also, something that we need to adapt to, however, is that in the past, ZK Snack was gathering all the liquidity. So it destroyed a lot of incentive for other actors to kick in, right? If there is ZK Snack gathering all the liquidity, you don't want to build another company based on this, except if you are really powerful, influent, let's say. Now it's not the case. So there are more incentive for everyone to run its own coordinator. So it can be because there are privacy advocates, cypherpunk, can be because they want to get a bit of revenue out of it. So this is Ginger that you mentioned. And so the user has more power because the liquidity can be, because they can choose, oh, I prefer Ginger's CoinJoin for some reason, because they apply blacklisting on coins. I prefer any other coordinator CoinJoin for whatever reason, right? But it's the CoinJoin has to we have to adapt to this new paradigm where the liquidity is not centralized to one coordinator, but more split around, and our engine, CoinJoin engine, has to still work great under these new circumstances, let's say. So it is also hard to make sure that everything works as great as before, while the liquidity is split amongst a lot of different entities.
At this point, I have to remember and remind the listeners that this show is sponsored by Sideshift.ai. If you got paid in stable coins or whatever other coin that you don't like, swap that CBDC wannabe for sound money on the free market. Go to Sideshift.ai. The fees are pretty low. You can do that without registration if you want. And it's a direct to wallet service. Also, thanks to the ambulance outside for messing up my audio setup. So go to sideshift.ai and swap whatever you want for BTC, or if you want to buy meme coins or whatever, I'm not judging. If you want to buy Joe Biden or Donald Trump or whatever that's called, you can swap BTC for that for whatever reason, and you can do that on sideshift.ai. Check them out. And the other sponsor that I want to present in this section is Starkware. It's the ZK, not ZK Snacks, but ZK rollup system, which is very scalable, doesn't require a trusted setup, has a lot of fancy cryptography that's built in it, and it can come to Bitcoin if we activate Opcat. So the message of Starknet and Starkware is activate Opcat so builders can create something really novel on top of Bitcoin. And that's it. So I want to ask you guys about Wasabi Wallet right now. Why should the average user still care about it as opposed to migrate to something else? I've also had the floppy disk guy. I'm not sure how I should refer to him. It's 1.44 megabytes or 1400000 bytes. he was on my show not so long ago. I think it was last month, and he's working on Joinster, and it's this CoinJoin plugin that's built on top of Electrum, which does not require a centralized coordinator, as far as I can understand. So the question is, why should people still care about Wasabi?
Okay, first of all, I think all the solutions that provides bring some privacy to Bitcoin are welcome, right? Basically, I'm not the some there are like people that think privacy is like a business of zero sum game, and so they are all fighting like each other. But I think that's silly. I mean, to me, all projects that help to gain some privacy are good. Um, the difference with other solutions, it depends what solution. But for example, with if you say, for example, Joinster, it is like a way to create coin joins, right? Basically, that is. Um, and Wasabi is not that. Wasabi allows you to make coin joins, and the wallet take decisions based on the anonymity set that you have, right? How private your coins are. When you want to create a payment, it selects the coins using that information, right? It makes sure to keep the your wallet private by remixing the change, and it takes a lot of decisions based on that, right? It's I know many people use Wasabi as a kind of mixer, so they mix and they move, and I think that's really bad. What Wasabi allows you to do is to know what are you revealing, right? Who knows about your wallet? Who knows about your transactions? It allows you to reveal exactly what you want to whoever you want to reveal that information, right? And CoinJoin is just one part of that, right? It's an important part, but it's just one part. It's an integrated system to protect your privacy, right? Um, that's basically the difference for example, with this Joinster protocol that has a plugin for Electrum, I think. Well, that is basically the main difference. Oh, by the way, because I listen your podcast, and something that the developer of Joinster said that is was the some governments can run a Wasabi coordinator, and yeah, yes, and we are designing Wasabi in a way that even if uh, uh, um, a government runs a coordinator, they can learn nothing about you. So welcome governments who want to run Wasabi coordinators.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. And I want to say two nice things and something that's not as nice about Wasabi right now. So
Mhm.
all the time you mentioned that you have Tor and you have block filters, and these are pretty cool for privacy. But two very underrated and underappreciated and super misunderstood features in Wasabi are, first of all, the autopilot mode, in which if you want to send a transaction, the wallet is gonna choose for you the best UTXO. A lot of people cried in the beginning and they said, we want UTXO management, we want to be able to choose from which one you pay. But I think this is sort of like the automatic gearbox, you know? You don't have to think about it anymore. It's so nice because the wallet decides for you, and before confirming the transaction, you actually get the option to send more or send less to not generate change. And I think that's
Yeah,
super cool. It's super important to not get change. There was that whole discussion in terms of difference between Samurai and Wasabi with toxic change. Wasabi doesn't generate toxic change, obviously, but it also gives you the option to not generate change at all, which I think in some cases is very useful. And something
yeah,
else that I want to say that's nice about Wasabi and was added into the wallet very late before you guys basically close down, is the transaction accelerator. That feature, so basically, if you receive money, you can do child pays for parent, CPFP, and you can accelerate that transaction to receive it much faster. And if you send a transaction to someone else and it's stuck in the mempool, you can do RBF, replaced by fee, and basically double spend the transaction in a way that is gonna pay a higher fee and get included into a block much faster. This stuff is embedded into the Wasabi engine in the background. You just press the rocket icon and you pay the fee that it asks you to pay, and the job gets done. You don't have to know any of the stuff that I just described. And I think that's beautiful. And I think
Yeah.
that feature is super, super underrated.
There are a lot of features that are very underrated because, for example, imagine I pay you, right? And I receive change, and then I have to pay you again. The wallet is smart enough to know that what coins are already known by you, and it will use those coins to pay you, so you learn nothing new about my wallet, for example, right? That's useful when you spend to an exchange, for example. There are features like the pocket selection that basically allows you to see visually who will know about your transaction, who will know about your change, right? And you can change that by just clicking the name of the people that you agree to reveal that information or not. We have also, pay joins. We have payments in CoinJoins. That's something that is not available in the UI yet, but there are a lot of features that are really, really underrated. I don't know, Turbo, if you have some other loved.
Not underrated feature, but about the automatic coin selector that you mentioned, Vlad, it's really nice feature and really important as well because it protects most of users that because most of the time the black box, let's call it that way, the automatic coin selector will do a much better job than the average Joe, let's say. Still, it's a black box, and so people have to trust it, right? And this is a major problem, especially in Bitcoin. And if we make something people have to trust, it must be really good. It must be really, really good. And even so, people in Bitcoin, right? They don't really want to trust this kind of stuff. And for this reason, we just merged, I think last week. It will be released soon. An alternative sound workflow that is based on the wallet coins window, if you know it, where basically prior to send, you will be able to choose which coins you want to be available for this specific transaction. So if you don't want to rely exclusively on the automatic coin selector, it's a feature that has been required a lot by our users. If you don't want to rely on the automatic coin selector, you can choose this advanced send workflow and really choose which coins, and then the workflow will create the transaction only using the coins that you made available for it. So you will have, let's say, best of both worlds, when you can 100% automatic and still automatic, but by selecting the coins that are available, which is something that is required a lot.
Yes, and I skipped the part that. So I was going to mention something that I don't like about Wasabi. And let me tease you a bit, let me present another series of advertisements and then I'm gonna come back with the criticism. So Layer 2 Labs, these guys are building drive chains. It's the ultimate vision for Bitcoin maximalism. They want to build a sidechain for basically every use case that is out there, and they want to drain altcoins of their developers and eventually their users, because if you build on a stronger monetary sound base, it makes more sense. So every altcoin out there, they already have a sidechain for it. They have a Zcash sidechain, they have an Ethereum sidechain, they have a big block sidechain, and all of them have data compression every 3 to 6 months. so that these sidechains don't get too big and all of the data gets crunched into the UTXOs that exist at a certain state of the network. Anyway, check them out. It's layer2labs.com. And now they also have demos that you can run on Signet. Even if you don't like BIP 300 or whatever, you can test the software and you can see for yourself if this is beneficial and if you think that this is the future of Bitcoin. So check them out, layer2labs.com. And there's also hodling.ch, which is a company from Switzerland. They deal with self custody. So if you are part of a company that wants to add Bitcoin to its balance sheet, or maybe that you are a whale and you don't know what to do with your Bitcoin because you have all of them in your house and you want to set up a multi-sig or a Shamir, you don't know which hardware wallets to get, these guys will help you out. They'll give you all of the advice. They will tell you what to buy. They will hold no keys, unlike services like Casa. And you also benefit from that Swiss privacy because they're based in Switzerland. So I guess they have more confidentiality in terms of providing consultancy for you. So check them out at hodling.ch. And thank you for sitting through my advertisements. Now let me tell you, there was this floppy disk guy f/dev. You can call him whatever you want. He keeps on posting on Twitter about address reuse in Wabi-Sabi. And it's not just the ZK Snacks coordinator. For a while, it was believed that there's a glitch in the coordinator, but it seems like there's address reuse in mixes in other coordinators, and it's even more evident now that the CoinJoins are much smaller. So, what do you think is happening? Why is there any address reuse at all?
Uh, First, in the past, I think 3 years ago, there was temporary bug, let's say, in the client coordinator code. I don't remember, which was leading to address reuse. In some cases, so the funding of this is correct, right? We had this problem in the past. Right now, it is not a problem anymore, at least as far as I know. But look, in CoinJoins, you can do whatever you want. For example, we have payments in CoinJoin. You can pay to an address that has been used in the past, right? And from an outside observer, how do you know it's a problem of the client, or it's simply a payment in CoinJoin that was made to a reused address? So you cannot know by looking at the blockchain what happened. It can be also someone that want to harm Wasabi's reputation, let's say, that on purpose makes a payment to an address that has already been used, and that's it, right? So we investigated this issue. I believe way too much. In fact, we spent too much time on it, and I don't believe there is such problem. I don't know, Lucas, if you want to add something about this topic.
No, basically, now we have like 10 coordinators and 3 wallets, right? That's who the wallet decide what coins to use, right? And it is an open protocol. The only way to prevent that could be for the coordinator to be smart and don't allow that. But if you don't allow that, then you cannot implement things like payments in CoinJoin, because if, for example, if I want to pay you in a CoinJoin, Vlad, right, and then you say, okay, pay me in the same address that I gave you last time, and I cannot do that, then I cannot pay, right? So the coordinator shouldn't enforce that kind of things, right? Is the The client has to make sure that it's not possible, but it's an open protocol. You cannot do it. You cannot do it, right? Basically. Anyway, I think we can renew this. There was someone said, okay, if you say that Wasabi is broken, okay, I give you an UTXO. I mix that UTXO, and then you have to tell me where the money went. if you can prove that. But nobody have never accepted that, even when there was money involved, right? I think it was 1 Bitcoin if you can demonstrate that, or but nobody have never accepted that. It's always posting pictures, graphs with it's okay. Uh, 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 there are people saying, "Oh, look, I can see where the money is going after mixing." Okay, where is it going? I don't know. Well, no, then it's, it's it's uh, that's it basically.
It,
I think if you really say that that wasabi is broken and that it is traceable, okay. If it's traceable, try to trace, try to trace my money. Try, demonstrate that. But there are no proof. There are only claims.
however, it's true that in individual cases, let's say, the user can perform an action uh, outside of CoinJoins or whatever that will degrade its privacy.
Yeah.
And it is the case, for example, if you use Wasabi as a mixer. Wasabi is made, as Lucas mentioned earlier, to be used as a wallet. So you receive your funds on Wasabi, it mixes automatically, or you decide to mix when you want. Then you pay whatever you want to pay, but you keep some funds in your wallet. But if you use Wasabi differently, where you receive some funds, you coin join, you reach 100% privacy, and then you send all your funds away at once. You sweep your funds. Maybe you are uh, we can an external observer can attack you with amount matching, right? Money coming in, money coming out. This is not related to CoinJoin. It's any protocol is the same. You check the inflow, you check the outflow. If there is a really peculiar amount that matches in both sides, you can uh, say, oh, it belongs to the same user. And it's more true now because there is less liquidity, so more peculiar amount. Let's say some whale is using a coordinator that has really, really low liquidity. Is the only one. He can mix for 1 month. If he was the only one with this kind of crazy amounts, I don't know, 100 BTC, and he sweeps all of his funds at once, well, it can be easy. So users still have to be careful while performing actions, and the client tries to minimize those risks by warning. You mentioned them earlier, the change reduction. Those are part of privacy warnings or privacy suggestions. When you create a transaction, we try to warn the user about privacy degradation that comes from the transaction he just built. But of course, the client is not perfect, and we still have a lot of work to do to try to decrease those risks, mitigate those risks as much as we can. For now, the user has to use it responsibly, let's say. Yes.
Something very significant for Wasabi Wallet as an open source project was getting integrated into BTC Pay Server and Trezor. And are you guys still in touch with them? Do you still want to maintain that part of the code base that enables the integration, or are they going to handle that by themselves?
For Trezor, basically because Wasabi is an open protocol. You don't need permission to integrate anything with Wasabi. Right? That's something very very cool. That's why, for example, um, you can do whatever you want. You can implement solutions with Wasabi, right? So Trezor, for example, they don't need anything in order to integrate with Wasabi. The integration that I have removed from the code base was basically something to share revenue, right? So basically to um, pay a share to Trezor for people using coin joining with their client, right? Well, that's not possible anymore, so I removed that. But Trezor can always basically switch coordinator, right? And that's it. What's the problem? The only problem that basically Trezor has this hardware wallet, and hardware wallet cannot connect to internet, right? So, and they have to sign a CoinJoin transaction, but they don't know if the fee rate that it is the correct one, for example, because they don't have access to internet. They don't know if you are trying to steal money or not, right? So basically, what Trezor was doing is, okay, they were checking that everything was okay, that the CoinJoin that we were creating was okay, that we pay the fee rate that we said that we have to pay, etc., etc., etc. And then let's say, like, authorize their devices to sign the CoinJoin automatically. So that is basically what they did. And with BTC Pay server, for example, right? There are no such a thing. So they integrate with us. They don't integrate with us. Basically, they just use the open protocol for implementing these things that are very, very cool. What BTC Pay server have done, because not only you can CoinJoin with, you have a lot of parameters, but you can also use this batch transaction thing. Batch transaction, for example, batch transactions, right? I can pay you in CoinJoins many times, right? So I can, yes, stack transactions, right? Payments, and all those payments are done automatically in one CoinJoin. So that's awesome to me. So and that's possible because they integrate with us. It's basically because it is an open protocol.
Also, sorry, so something important about integrations is that there are two levels of integrations. The one Lucas mentioned, Wasabi is an open protocol. You can create your own client if you want. Okay? But there are also some kinds of other kind of integrations that uses the daemon. So instead of re-implementing all the client by themselves, right, a company or whatever can, let's say, create a new graphical interface for Wasabi, but don't re-implement the whole CoinJoin client thing, because it's not so straightforward to implement, right? But instead, forward the requests through the daemon, the RPC of the built-in RPC of Wallet Wasabi. It's fully fledged. Almost all the features of the wallet are accessible through the daemon, and so build their business on top of Wasabi, of Wasabi's client by itself, not rebuilding anything. And this, we have no idea how many exists. Maybe there are a lot, maybe there are not so much. I think some mixers are using it, so they have an interface that looks like a mixer, but as a backend, they use Wallet Wasabi's daemon. But we don't know, right? And it's something that is quite easy to do as a developer, to just build on top of the daemon, and you can access almost every feature of Wasabi for your users. So it's also a really cool kind of integrations.
Okay, something else that I want to ask you right now concerns the fact that the value proposition of a CoinJoin is that you are hiding inside of a crowd, right? You look just like everyone else and you leave the crowd and it's unclear where you came from. I think that's the simplest way to describe it. You're wearing the same clothes as everyone, you're indistinguishable. But the value proposition is that these CoinJoins become more efficient and more valuable as you have more participants. When Wasabi was more centralized, in the sense that there was one coordinator, you were able to do rounds of at least 180, if I'm not mistaken, and up to 360 something. I don't recall exactly what was the record, but you did pretty large CoinJoins. They were huge. Right now, I think sometimes you watch CoinJoins that are made with Wabi-Sabi clients. There are maybe 5 inputs, 5 outputs, like Samurai, or 10 inputs, 10 outputs. And as it gets more decentralized, you're going to have more coordinators. So, how should coordinators get users to the same degree to be able to replicate the same coin joins to have at least 100 participants in one round?
Okay, I just give you some data. For example, the latest successful coin join from Groove Coordinator has 196. No, sorry. Yes, 196 outputs and 190 inputs. So are not small. Are not small. Uh, they are, in fact, they are growing. I mean, they are they, that coordinator, for example, have more and more and more liquidity, right? So it's growing. And well, I will let Turbo to continue because I think he has a better idea. But it is important to mention that we are not having small coin joins. It's just that the liquidity is moving, right? It's not at CK Snacks level, but it is quite decent. And just let me share something else because I have this page that someone created that is basically is amazing to me. There is the Wasabist IO, and for example, in the last 24 hours, right? Um, the Groove Coordinator has 154 bitcoins, right? Um, the Wasabi Coordinator IO 54 bitcoins, Ginger 7. So there are significant liquidity. I think we can make the same volume that CK Snacks in a distributed way. Okay, and it's all your tool.
Thank you, but I think your summary was really good. ZK Snacks, just to give additional data, for most of its life, in the past it was a bit more, but it was a bit more, but for most of his life, had around 180 inputs on average per round. And now Cruise Coordinator, which is the one with most liquidity currently, as Lucas mentioned, on average is around 120 inputs. So we see that we are pretty close, but your question is still valid. Now the liquidity is more decentralized, and some coordinators with a value proposition that is different will exist and make coin joins with lower number of inputs. And those conjoins have to work well as well, have to provide privacy for their user, even if they don't have um, nowhere close as much liquidity as the case Nax had. And it's an important axis of our work. We are now it's something a bit new for us. In the past, right, we were relying too much on ZK Snacks because it was just how it was. Wasabi has always been built to be able to work with any coordinator, but reality is, because we only had just one, our user were just using ZK Snacks, we in some way neglected the work on making coin joins work really efficiently with lower liquidity. Now we will start working on this again. In fact, we are planning. I won't give a timeline because I don't have one, but we are planning a hard fork for the future. So a change in the protocol, a client will need to upgrade. And for this, we will focus on making the new, let's say, CoinJoin engine, who will not be new, right? But the new CoinJoin engine working better with lower liquidity. This is one of our priority. Also, another aspect of this problem, and this is more for right now, is that we want liquidity to upgrade, because Right now, you launch Wasabi, right? You have an announcement that says ZK Snacks is shutting down, okay? And you see the music box, it's the box on the bottom of the app that is saying waiting for CoinJoin. You can wait if you want, but it will not find any, right? Because ZK Snacks is not creating any new rounds. And so you have to actively change your coordinator endpoint. And this is something that is not straightforward to do. If you want to know this, you have to go to Twitter, you have to go to whatever to see, oh, but I can change coordinator. There are some community run coordinator. Oh, there is Ginger that now has a coordinator. So you have to do an action on your part. And we try to simplify this action as much as we can. For the next release that we will have soon, we will have a new feature which is called coordinator connection string. So let me make a bit of teasing. It will allow coordinator to create some kind of magic string that client can copy. For example, you click on a button, so you reach landing page of coordinator. Oh, Ginger is really good because I don't know what. Connect to our coordinator. You copy, click on a button, then you go to Wasabi, and Wasabi will automatically recognize this string and display you a window to with the changes that you are going to make. Oh, I am connected to Ginger, the fee is this, and all the attributes of the new coordinator you want to connect to. Decline, confirm. So this is for now. And then in the future, because coordinators are announcing themselves through Noster, we also want to make use of this to have some kind of coordination discovery through the client. And with all these steps, make sure that the liquidity that is still using Wasabi as a wallet now know that they can still CoinJoin, right? They just need to change coordinator, select one that suits best their needs, and have the different options. So those are the two aspects to make things better with more decentralized liquidity.
I put the website on the screen. It's wasabist, wasabist.io. You can see it here. And I think it's pretty cool. It gives you information about the fees, there's even a warning for gingerwallet.io that they do this AML check. So you can't join it without, I guess, verifying your identity or something. So there's an association.
No. Sorry. It's the same as ZK Snacks before. It's the coin passed through a chain analysis company that will check the history of the UTXO. Basically, it can bring value for some users, right? For some, it's an heresy. It should be eradicated from the face of Earth. But for some users, it can bring value for any reason, and it does not degrade privacy of those users, because the chain analysis company doesn't know more than what the blockchain says, so than what is already public, right? It sees public information, analyzes it, and say, okay, this coin can participate into a CoinJoin, this coin cannot. So maybe it's stupid, right? Can have value for some user, but it does not degrade privacy, and you do not have yet, maybe, to perform a KYC check or whatever. Sorry to have interrupted you.
No, you haven't interrupted me. I think it's really beautiful that these resources exist and that this project has a life of its own. I can look at, for example, crew.io. I know Crew in real life. He's not paying me for this advertisement, but I hope he buys me a beer next time I see him. He has 50 minimal inputs and no coordination fees, which I think is incredible. This might be promotional just for the first few weeks until he gets enough users. And there's also wasabicoordinator.io, which seems to have free coordination under 0.001 BTC. I think that's 100,000 Satoshis. So if you have amounts smaller than this, you're not gonna pay a coordination fee. Otherwise, I'm not sure. Oh, it's 0.003%. It's interesting. There is this free market of coordinators. You pick the one that you like. You have statistics about them. You see which coin joins they did, how large they are. It's beautiful. It's exactly how Wasabi should have been. No offense to ZK Snacks, but I think this is the 2.0 that we should have had since the beginning. This is exactly, as Lucas said, the unfuckable version of Wasabi. Because you can just
Yeah.
switch from one coordinator to the other. But my question for you right now is, how do you switch without trusting that the coordinators are going to steal from you? What are the protections for the user? And I did see that in, I'm not sure if it's the latest, but the release after the coordinator shut down, you had some stuff to reinforce the user security.
Mhm. As I mentioned earlier, because we were relying too much on ZK Snacks, some aspects of using other coordinators has been neglected in the past, and we are trying to correct that mistake now. Now, Wasabi has always been built in a way that you don't have to trust coordinators, whether with your money or your private information, right? The coordinator is we try to make sure that the coordinator cannot have any more information on you than any external observer of the blockchain. So you never had to trust the coordinator to be sure that your money is safe. Now it's possible that there are some exploits, right, that are non-trivial, that allows coordinator to get some of your money as much as they can. And we are working over the clock to mitigate those risks as much as we can. And this is why the last release that we made introduces a new configuration, which is maximum coordination fee. And the user can now select what is the maximum coordination fee they allow. So, for example, if they want to connect to Ginger, sorry to take again this example, but their fee is 0.3%, so they have to write 0.3%, and they will now be able to CoinJoin with Ginger. But by default, this value is zero. The maximum allowed coordination fee is zero. And the reason to that is if you use a free coordinator and you have this value to zero, before entering a round, the client will always check for the coordination fee used. And because it's zero, it cannot, right, steal your money. Also, we have introduced other checks of the kind, but we still have to work on this. Lucas, do you want to continue this topic?
Basically, you have to change your mind, right? Because you were designing something for, and there were only one coordinator, so your mind didn't basically sometimes consider scenarios that the coordinator can be really malicious, even when you should, right? Because in reality, for during 6 years, there were no other coordinators. Now, for example, we have implemented, but we did it in a rush, right? We saw that there were new coordinators that we released something immediately. I mean, Turbo released something immediately by checking, for example, that the client never pays more than what you specify, that the number of inputs of a CoinJoin cannot be less in a CoinJoin cannot be less than a minimum, that the coordination fee cannot be more than that, that the fee rate that the coordinator says, I mean, the mining fee rate is the real one. That, I mean, not that, because the coordinator could say, okay, I want to pay 1,000 satoshis per byte, when the fee rate is 1 satoshi per byte. So it pays 1 satoshi per byte to the miners, and it takes the rest for itself, right? So basically, all those scenarios were covered, right? Now version 2081 is basically the one that contains these additional protections. So if you want to CoinJoin with coordinates. If you want to CoinJoin now, please use that version. Because it protects you, and we are working on some other more theoretical vectors, let's say, but it is safe to CoinJoin with Wasabi using this version, right? So don't don't worry, right? One more thing. Sorry, this is a completely different topic. I saw, for example, that the crew rounds were with not enough participants, and also you can see exactly the same, right, for others. It's because, um, believe it or not, these free coordinators are under attack. They are suffering denial of service attack. Um, they have been attacked in 1 month more than CK Snacks coordinator was attacked in 6 years. So we are doing something good because otherwise, why attacking free coordinators? It makes no sense.
Well, the attack was denial of service, so it was
Yeah.
just a way to try to shut it down. I guess some people were just mad that there's this service that doesn't take any fees. You can actually suspect that the competition was trying to take them down for whatever reason. But something that I want to ask you both on a personal level, because it's been 1 hour and we have been talking about this, but I still don't understand why you guys are working on this, because you are both software engineers, very competent ones. You can get much better jobs both in Bitcoin or in software in general. You can go to any corporation, you're gonna get a well paid job with less stress, less risk. And you guys chose to work on this open source privacy wallet which no longer pays you to work on it. So, what's wrong with you?
First, it's slightly incorrect, huh? Because ZK Snacks has a shutting down move, let's say. He is funding us for some time to keep working on the wallet. They have not been talking about it a lot, but they made this move, which I think is really nice, right? To keep maintaining the wallet more open source. Also, Wasabi right now is one of the best way to have financial sovereignty, Bitcoin, privately. As a personal level, what what can I do better than this, right? How can I have a bigger impact on something that I feel is really good, important, and under attack? Under attack, one of the most important fight, let's say, even if I don't like to see it under this angle, for my generation, our generation that keep working on Wasabi. For me, this is opportunity of lifetime, right? And this is why I invest so much of my energy into this project, because for the people that needs it, Wasabi is really good and have an impact on their life that I cannot even imagine, right? And for me as a person, no, nothing better than this.
From my side, it is true what Turbo has said. But it is true that the CK Snacks is over and the money is over. So yes, of course, I personally will apply to one of those grants that are available for open source development. But let's say the truth, the money is over or will be over one day. I mean, next year, maybe. I don't know. It's I think that I will continue working on this because basically it is what I always wanted to do when I was following No Para work in Wasabi before it was called Wasabi. Um, I started developing this with him. I was there when he renamed the repository to Wasabi Wallet, right? And it is important because basically, without privacy, none of the properties of bitcoins are real, right? It's not borderless or permissionless if you have no privacy, right? Because if I know that you are sending money that I don't like, right? If I don't like what you are doing, right? So your bitcoins are not um, censorship resistant, they are not borderless, they are not uh, nothing, right? So privacy is what allows to Bitcoin be Bitcoin. And basically, I think we need to separate the state. Well, it's a philosophical talk, but I think we need to separate the state from money, right? And the state thinks exactly the opposite, right? So the thing that we need to start is privacy. Privacy is the starting point, right? And I think we are going in the opposite direction right now. So, and these privacy preserving tools are are good, and someone has to do it, basically.
Yeah, I think that's really admirable because in your case, Lucas, you have been with the project since at least 2017, if I'm not mistaken. There was only you, Nopara, and Matthew Haywood, and he could not wait for the project to launch, and he took a job at Blockstream. At least that's how I understand the story goes. And you were there when the coordinator barely had 2 or 3 coin joins per month, and
Yes,
it's really impressive that you've come this long, this far, and you still don't want to give up on the project. In your case,
no,
Turbolay, you're much newer, you're fresher, but I like your enthusiasm. You're here for all the right reasons, and also guys like Crew, he worked for the team for a while, and he didn't give up on the project. He actually saw the opportunity to run his own coordinator, which I think is admirable. It's also risky, but admirable.
yes, and you know what? Something that is very, very, very cool is all those people that unknown people that are running coordinators, right? That they are putting themselves in risk, uh, and then you don't feel alone, right? Because otherwise you could say, "Oh, I'm the only idiot putting myself in risk, and nobody cares." And no, they are running these coordinators. Many of them are not doing any coordinator round, right? But they are uh, keeping running a coordinator. It's not free. I mean, it costs you some money, and also. They are like the backup, there are like 10, there is like one big mm, coordinator that is absorbing most of the liquidity, and then there are 10 backups, right? And if something happens to the main, let's say, or the major coordinator, then now people know how to switch, and they will switch to the second one, to the third one, to the fourth one. So um, so I feel that we are not alone. I feel that there are people that understand how important it is. It's not all tokens. It's not all Michael Saylor. I have nothing against Michael Saylor, but it is not um, those bullshit. There are people that think like us, that try to do what we want to do, that wants to do to bring privacy to Bitcoin. So you basically, yes, you don't feel like an idiot. You feel that you are part of uh, a community that is taking risk in order to achieve something that is important.
It's not even about coordinators, because what Lucas said is also true for all the other project, let's say, or people from the community working on Wasabi. And this is the case, for example, for the website you mentioned about
Yeah,
wasabist.io.
yeah.
For me, seeing this is really, really cool, right? Seeing the community investing their time, their money to do a project like this, to visualize liquidity. And we've seen some popping up from who knows, right? We don't know these guys. They came one day to our Telegram. Oh, we made this website, and seeing this vibe, also the amount of positive feedback that we are receiving right now on Twitter, which is a really different vibe than the one we had before, right? And all this makes it really cool for us to see this excitement around the project and the solution we are bringing. Same for contributors, and I think this is something we will see more in the future. But from that case next, some contributors are still contributing to Wasabi. We've seen more a random guy coming to the GitHub, right? Like an open source project. Coming to the GitHub and either opening issue, either making contribution. I'm thinking about someone, for example, that made an integration of Wasabi on Start 9 OS that is almost ready. And this kind of stuff are making times right now really exciting for seeing all the community buzzing around this project is something we want to we really like to see.
Yes, sorry, just to add even more blood, because there are a lot of people contributing and we don't know them, but there are people creating packages for Wasabi in NixOS. There are also ex CK Stacks employee that now they have zero money, zero, and they are contributing, creating documentation, fixing things in Wasabi. So it is really I don't know how to express this, but it's really emotional, right? To me, to see all this movement, right? After, I mean, they are not letting Wasabi to die, and that's amazing for me. Exactly. Yes, I agree with you.
And I was muted. I'm an idiot. So for the last 2 minutes I spoke and my microphone was not heard on the live stream, I'll say it again. I'm concerned sometimes that if we don't add privacy to Bitcoin, this can turn into the CBDC itself. I've had this conversation with Rafe. Rafe, if you're one of the 500 people listening to this right now, live on live stream, thank you very much, and thank you for having all of these great conversations with me over the years. You told me that what if this Bitcoin technology that we love so much is gonna become evil one day? And not just evil, it's gonna be tracked and it's gonna be the CBDC itself. We like to express concern about CBDCs, but we don't realize that we have this open ledger technology where at the political level you can KYC and AML every user. You can make compliance mandatory if it gets integrated into commerce or whatever. And that defeats the purpose. And once we take that path, I don't think there's any turning back. I don't think there's any redeeming way. which is why I support projects like Wasabi, which is the protocol, Wasabi Wallet, which is the implementation that's most popular. I like anything. I like Joinster. I like Join Market. I like anything that adds privacy to Bitcoin. I'm also positive on this ZK rollup stuff that's coming from the Ethereum side because it does some data compression, which is also good for privacy. I'm also bullish on Zcash sidechains on Bitcoin. I think that's also a net benefit because you can do swaps in and out, and you can have all of the activity with a lot of privacy within that sidechain. I'm also curious if you guys have any sort of preference or I don't know, sympathy for the proposals that are being made for Bitcoin right now. There's covenants, there's drive chains, there's Mimblewimble extension block. There's a lot of stuff that's being discussed, and I'm wondering if you like anything from it.
Guru?
I don't know enough. I will be honest with my answer. I don't know enough. But what I hope is that one day Wabi-Sabi will be obsolete, right? And that this day will arrive sooner than later. Wabi-Sabi, I believe, is right now the most well-working, the best, let's say, privacy solution for Bitcoin. And I hope soon it will not be the case because Wabi-Sabi has a lot of hiccups, especially in terms of UX, right? Yeah, it incurs fee as well, fees that are uh, not they are small, but it depends on the amounts, right? For someone with less than $1,000, let's say, to make private, the mining fees will be a huge chunk of their money, and I really hope sooner than later we will have better solutions. Maybe that we can implement ourselves in Wasabi. Who knows, right? But that Wabi-Sabi will be made obsolete.
For my part, I think covenants are interesting. There are solutions that can be created with covenants that are privacy preserving, but uh, I don't know, because the problem is that everybody should basically use that, right? For example, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I think there are all things that are not in the layer, in the first layer, like the from Lightning to the eCash systems that bring privacy, right? And on the first layer, I don't know. Yes, maybe covenants. Yeah, covenants and CoinJoins and open and messing up, right? All the transaction graph. One idea was always to pay with I mean open channels with for Lightning in CoinJoins and all that kind of stuff that maybe with time we can mess the transaction graph enough to make really hard to understand what is going on, or to yes, to fool the observer to believe that what is happening is not exactly what is happening, right? But yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I think that the regulators and politicians and all of these people who don't like Bitcoin, they caught up with the technology, they understand how it works, and they know how to regulate it in destructive ways. And becoming complacent at this point is destructive for Bitcoin itself. It's dangerous to not consider how we can add more privacy, what we can do to preserve this. And at this point, I'm in favor of any soft fork that adds something else to Bitcoin that fundamentally changes the way in which we transact. I understand that Upcat can build a lot of interesting stuff. I understand that CTV is also pretty good. I understand that both of them can add a lot of applications that basically can do whatever Ethereum does, but in a more scalable way. And honestly, I would not be against a block size increase at this point, just because I understand that the number of users is growing. And A good way to do that is with Mimblewimble extension blocks, so we don't even have to hard fork. This technology has been tested on Litecoin for 2 years now, and it works. It didn't break. They added some mobile wallets in the last couple of months. It works. You know, you can test it. There's a bounty that you can collect if you can break it. I think it's pretty cool if we add something, as opposed to just saying Bitcoin is perfect. We should not mess with the money and blah blah blah. I think the threat of not doing anything is greater than the threat of recovering from a buggy soft fork, you know? Because at the social layer, we can all agree that we want Bitcoin to work. But at the political level, it's convenient if Bitcoin never changes. At the same time, I want to say hello to Nopara, who is in the chat and told me when I had no sound. And he also made a comment that without marketing team, Wasabi devs must crawl out of their dungeons. Smiley face.
Yes.
It's true.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Did you guys stay in dungeons?
I don't stay in dungeon, but I like to code and to think. I'm not much of talker. Maybe I've made that clear with this 1 hour talk of mine. But we try to present. It is important for us to showcase that the project is nor dead nor dying. And so this is what we are trying to do here. It is making a turn, which is huge, right? It's a huge change for the project, but it's a really interesting and exciting one. Also, it's slightly off topic, but Wabi-Sabi, because it was so well funded in the past, and because it has already this huge established brand that is the work of all the previous contributors, no para, and all the previous contributors before me, we can make use of it. It's an asset that the project now have, right? And so we are building an open source project in the easy mode, let's say, because we have already everything that is working, production ready, established brand, community. And so to keep this running is really, really interesting. It is true that now we have to change our way of working, right? Coming to you to have use of this kind of stuff, but really interesting time for us.
Yes, and I want to ask you guys, for how long are you committing to maintaining Wasabi? And how can people keep up with what's happening? Is it just enough to download the latest version and they will be notified when there's a new release? Or should they follow a specific GitHub repo?
Turbo.
Yes. So it's an interesting question. In Wasabi, we have a built-in update manager. So when we release something, you are notified. In the past, we were using ZK Snack server to give the update notification, because our trajectory is now resiliency and being more and more serverless. This in the 2.0.8, I think, has already been changed to look at GitHub. So basically, you don't have to look at GitHub because software already does that for you. Right? So whenever we release a new version, even if ZK Snacks is closing down their server, you will see the notification as long as the GitHub repo exists. So not necessarily looking at external sources other than the software. However, if you want to find a coordinator, and it's something that we need to fix, a coordinator that suits your needs, you still have to look out on the community, on Twitter or whatever, to find new CoinJoin services. Let's say, because there is nothing built in right now in the software for this. But for updates, that should be it. Also, we are the Twitter account Wasabi Wallet has been transferred to the open source project. and is now under our control. And without marketing team again, we will shift also the communication to be more technical related. And so it will be more of a release notes, let's say. So we will publish there a quick summary of the releases, announcement of releases, and this kind of stuff, what we are doing on a daily basis. Also, if you are a developer or not, if you want to contribute, monitor the GitHub. There is no much, there is activity, but nothing overwhelming, right? Monitor the GitHub, see what we are doing. Come on Slack if you want, see what we are doing on a daily basis, see how you can help. Right? You can help by producing code, you can help by reporting issue, you can help by helping other members of the community that are coming to support for error, writing docs, this kind of stuff. It's easy to help like any open source project.
Yeah, check it out. It's one of the most important open source projects in Bitcoin right now, and it's also one of the most battle tested wallets out there. It has a lot of features that you should try out. It's built in a way, I think Nopara said this, that he built it for grannies and for Peter McCormack so that they can use Wasabi Wallet even if they don't know anything about Bitcoin. Some very technical users were not happy with the interface and they switched from Wasabi to Sparrow because they thought that one has more integrations. I'm actually curious if you guys are going to maintain this hardware wallet integration and continue to add more hardware wallets, or you think that the current code base is just enough, or you're just going to remove it entirely and leave that to Trezor?
We have to make sure that hardware wallets still work. They still work, right? It is not easy to test and maintain all the hardware wallets, but we have to do it. In the short term, remember we are coding in this war mode, so we have priorities that are very very important. The resources are basically Clement and me and maybe others working on, but not in the core features. So basically, make Wasabi unfuckable is the priority. Make sure it can resist attacks of mm, different kind of attacks, right? Make sure that people is safe mixing with unknown coordinators. All that is priority, right? Um, After that, right, we can discuss a bit better what's the future. Um, and regardless to your previous question, you know now that the Wasabi is a community-backed project again. Let's say there is no company behind. Um, I hope all those supporters uh, come back, because I remember the first day of Wasabi and there was a lot of people loving Wasabi and creating material and creating tutorials and and supporting us. I hope we can bring that people back on board, and and thank you for this opportunity, because you are the first one.
Also, you mentioned Vlad. Let me bounce on something you just said. You said Wasabi was built for grannies and Peter McCormack. If you feel you don't enter into any of those categories, and you are much more technical, but the wallet, graphical interface doesn't let you have enough control on things, use the daemon. Right now you can use the daemon, and I'm sure I know we have some really technical users that want really custom usage of Wasabi, that are able to do it through the daemon, even companies and this kind of stuff. So we are still working, of course, on the graphical interface, and we have still a really talented graphical interface dev helping us. But if there is a lacking feature, in the UI, it is not lacking on the daemon. So you use that.
Well, you heard him. If there's any feature that's lacking, you can use the daemon or daemon. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. But thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. There were almost 500 people who listened to this live, which is impressive. I didn't do much advertising for it. I only had the thumbnail ready a few hours before we started recording. And I posted about this on Twitter and Noster. I hope that some people became interested. I hope that you listened to this and you learned something new. I also want to thank Vake because he was in the chat, and also Karina Betancourt. Betancourt. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. But thank you very much for being there. Thank you to the sponsors. Once again, there's Huddling, Starknet, Sideshift.ai, Layer 2 Labs, and previously Wasabi Wallet. Now, they don't sponsor the show anymore, but I'm happy to promote the product because I love it. And I have been using it since I think it was January or February of 2018. When I interviewed David Chaum, I even told him, I just mix my Bitcoin with a technique that's called Chaumian CoinJoin. And he looked at me like, really? he, he didn't know that this exists. And I'm not sure if he tried it, but he's busy with other stuff these days. And last but not least, thank you guys, Turbolay and Lucas Ontivero. Where can people follow you and keep up with your work?
Well, they can follow me on Twitter. My handle is Lontivero. It's the L for Lucas Ontivero. And also in Noster, I'm more present in Noster. Also, you can search me like Lontivero and you will find me. That's it.
And for me, mostly on GitHub, I would say. Or if they want to connect either on Slack or Telegram, my handle is Turbolay.
That's very nice. Turbolay and Lontivero. That's how you can follow these guys. Keep up with the project, and also a very useful resource to learn more about Wasabi coordinators right now is wasabist.io. And remember, ZK Snacks might have closed down, and a lot of forks exist, but Wasabi is still alive, and that's very important for Bitcoin privacy. So keep that in mind. And thank you guys for being here and tuning in and participating in this important debate.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Vlad.